Mick's smile was right. He was playing with me. I thought that was my one chance of winning the English Derby. Gone. Boy, was I wrong.
That's what I was paid to do.
There's a lot of people paid to do it though. Doesn't mean they do it.
I meant to unlock it.
You wouldn't want to get down his inside. He'd be a bit like Kevin Manning. he'd close all the doors.
I helped him through many a moment with TK.
You're speaking from experience.
I was, yeah. So he'd come to me when he was in trouble.
As it thus settles on Irish Champions Weekend, another terrific 2 days of racing. We're here at the Curragh, where the second day culminated, and I'm joined by two legends of the game who are no strangers to the success here at the Curragh. Just the 490 wins at the Curragh between them, Mr. Mick Kinane and Seamie Heffernan. How you doing, boys?
Good to be here.
We were just looking there before we came on, and we got a good view of the Curragh and got to see the old Vic Gallop and, of course, the long home straight. I'm sure, Mick, you first of all, it evokes plenty of memories.
Yes, had some great days here. One of my favourite race courses. Very fair track. Very seldom you sort of see unlucky horses here, unless it's big fields or something tightens up down the inside in the straight. But generally, it's a very fair track.
And very few hard luck stories. I know we spoke about Irish Champions Weekend, and there was a few hard luck stories at Leopardstown. But Seamie, from a jockey's perspective, is it a track you come into and you think the best horse usually does win?
Would be, yeah. The 5 classics are on here. We've more or less a straight mile. It's a strong galloping track, little climb finish. Usually the best horse wins.
Usually. We'll get to the hard luck stories that the two boys have later on. But Mick, for you, obviously you've had so many magical memories out there on that turf. Did you look back at the weekend and wish, God, I wish I was still at it?
Can't wish for something you can't have. But listen, it evoked great memories, and racing has been fantastic to me. So I've mostly good memories. In sport you'll have unlucky stories, but mostly it's great.
Talk to me about how it started, going back to the early days.
Oh dear, I started on the Curragh here with Liam Brown, fresh out of school. Had my first ride was a winner at Leopardstown, and spent my apprenticeship 4 years here with Liam. And my 4th year I was champion apprentice, and then got going and moved on then to my professional career. But a lot of my life was spent on the Curragh and lived on the Curragh. Was
it always your calling, did you think? Was there ever anything else that you wanted to do?
Oh, Mum, God rest her, tried to keep me at school, but she lost. I just wanted to ride horses, so that was it. Didn't know where it was going to take me. Didn't realise it was going to take me where it did. But I just wanted to eat, sleep and drink horses.
I'm sure if she knew the way your career was going to go, she would have just let you do your own thing, I'd imagine.
Well, mammies will be mammies.
It's very hard for a mammy though, isn't it, for their sons and daughters getting into racing, because they probably see the risks attached and those that don't make it, but obviously you did.
Yeah, it's difficult. You have to leave school early, and you don't have education to fall back on. So it's a very high risk career to take on, and as is sport. It's very few really succeed. So yeah, you can imagine where she was coming from, but I couldn't see it from her point of view.
And Seamie, you're still at it. You're still going strong. You're still a key cog in the Ballydoyle machine. You've seen jockeys come and go out of Ballydoyle, and there's one man that remains, and that is Mr. Seamie Heffernan.
Still hanging in there, yeah. Listen, I'm enjoying it more so than ever.
Really?
It's an addiction I have that I can't get used to losing. I just love winning. It doesn't really matter whether I win or lose. It's on to the next race or the next day. But I'm lucky that I'm part of a huge operation that have nice horses year in, year out. So I'll keep going until I'm told you're done.
So if we rewind maybe a little over a decade or so, maybe a little longer, Mick Kinane is number 1, Seamie Heffernan is number 2. What was your relationship like at Ballydoyle?
Yeah, well, Mick was number 1 when he was there. I was number 2 the odd time. My job there has always been to ride work, and I've always renewed the license, and I've always fell in for some good rides. So I've never had the pressure of being the number 1, even though it looks like sometimes Seamie is number 1 or on certain days. when I started coming racing, like Mick he had the experience. It was his shiny boots and white pants I wanted to be in, and you know, it's just something I fell into, and I kept chasing, and I'm still chasing to be at the top.
And I'd imagine it takes patience, and you need to love what you're doing to be in the position that you've spent.
Yeah, well, there's some days now where I don't love what I'm doing, but you have to get over that quick. Your mindset has to be push the bad experience to one side and soldier on.
Both of you know Aidan O'Brien better than I ever will. Talk to me about the legend that is Mr. Aidan O'Brien, Mick.
Well, his record is unrivaled. You know, it's what he's done and the great horses he's put through his hands it's a fantastic achievement. And you don't do that by chance. You can do that. There's a lot of hard work goes into it, of course, and he is a workaholic. But if you don't have that craft and you don't have that grasp of what horses can do or can't do, you got to get inside their heads and their souls. That's an art that very few have, and he has it.
He certainly has, and we look down through the years and you see all the brilliant horses that have come out of Ballydoyle, and one that shines through is Galileo, obviously, who we unfortunately lost recently. The only two men to have ridden Galileo are sitting beside me on this couch, and obviously, Mick, you knew him as well as anybody. As a racehorse, how early on did you realise this is a bit special, Aidan? This is not your usual horse. Was it very early that it started to stand out?
Well, I sat in him for the first time, I think, at Leopardstown. I don't think I had sat in him prior to that, because Jamie will tell you more about the ins and outs of him as his early 2-year-old career, but he was quite precocious, and I think it took them quite a while just to settle him into doing things correctly. But I rode him in a maiden at Leopardstown, and he won. He won as far as the eye could see. I don't know what he won, 12, 14 lengths. But I just came in and said, wow, we have one here. You know, it was just very evident from that day you were looking at something very special. And
did you have no idea going that day to the races that you were about to sit in something special? Had you any idea? No,
Aidan said, listen, I think we have a really nice horse here. You know, and you never know until you ask that 2-year-old to step into the limelight, and when the pressure's put on him, how he's going to react. It's like any kid go to kindergarten. Some will love it and some will just say, oh no, this is not for me. And, you know, while you'll have expectations, but you never really could say for sure. But his performance just was a wow factor.
Can you remember him at home in the early days?
We had loads of really well-bred horses that showed plenty. And you'd have the half dozen that could go through the pain barrier and fight. And he was the perfect example. He had everything. He had pedigree. He'd speed, he'd everything, but when he got to the track, losing wasn't an option in his mind.
And you rode him in the Derrinson Derby trial at Leopardstown. That day, it was more workmanlike than wonderful, but there was just that air of invincibility just starting at that stage.
Yeah, the boys would have been in France, so I slotted in for the ride on him, and Aidan he'd be peaking them for the days he wanted to peak, so it was only a stepping stone. So he wouldn't want him to pitch up and win as far as he could, because he wanted to leave improvement, but he bolted up.
Yeah, no, and obviously he went on to win the Derby that day, Mick. Very fond memories, I'd imagine. Was there ever a moment's worry?
No, he was one of those, like Epsom can be a very difficult track on horses and jockeys, because it's so demanding in every aspect. And very seldom it comes and it flows in plan A. And it was just, from the time I left the gates, it was just never a moment's worry. It was only just a question when I let his head go. In total control of the race.
Did you ever anticipate what he would go on to achieve as a stallion?
It takes an awful lot for a stallion to succeed. You know, the odds are way against. If he doesn't get the right mares early, quite easily they can be shunned aside, and for commercial reasons it just doesn't wait around for anything. And he had maybe 1 or 2 shaky starts early, and then he just took off. Then once people started realising the mares were given to him, then it just sky's the limit for me.
And when you're riding work at home, is it very easy to tell a Galileo from something else?
Most of them are the same, yeah. Most of them, want to do what you want them to do. You know, some horses, when you ask them, it's like sticking a needle in them. You can feel the resenting. But he was a very good cross for Danehill mares, which I think they had spotted, and everything just filtered in and came alive, and you could train them hard. You could compete hard, and you could go back and do it a couple of weeks later. So it just worked.
While we're on the theme of outstanding racehorses, Mick, the one horse I presume that you're asked about more than any other, Sea the Stars. When you hear that name, do you still smile inside?
Oh yeah, Galileo's brother.
Yeah.
You know, out of arguably one of the greatest broodmares of all time, Urban Sea. So, yeah, listen, for him to come along so late in my career was just fantastic. You know, he just carried an old man like me around with ease.
You're being hard on yourself there now. Looking at him, obviously in the early days, was he an easy ride? Was he, as you say, were you just a passenger?
No. He often looked as if he was over racing more than he felt to me, you know. It's just that he was just found pace of a race so easy to adapt. He was always just cruising, you know. It's can be an overused theme speed, but like no matter what distance you were traveling, and he was in control of it, you know. So he was never once was he on his head.
Was it all bonus territory for you? Did you think you would never get a horse like him? As you say, you'd gone from Ballydoyle to John, and it came around for you at the perfect time, didn't he? Yeah,
listen, those horses are born, they come along, you know, you're just lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time, and he just showed up one morning in Welch's Hill here, and I went, wow, we have one here.
And he won the Beresford here, obviously behind us. But I think for us all, the day that stands out was the Arc, because that was the moment when we said, this is greatness. This is a legend before our eyes. For you in the race, it didn't look straightforward. It couldn't have been straightforward. Can you talk me through your emotions during the race?
No, it wasn't straightforward. Like ever, he was very aggressive horse out of the gates for, you know, easy-going horse before. But once them gates opened, he'd hit, like he was in top speed in 5 strides. Like, it was amazing how quick he was on the game. And when he went a mile and a half, he was nearly too much in control, you know. I'd hit the gates really well, and I just sat in him. And then Pat Smullen, God rest him, was riding a pacemaker at Ballydoyle. After about a half a furlong, he had missed the start. He came flying by me, came up by me, and then Michael wanted to charge off after him. And I just had to take him back just to say, no, you can't go racing off here. And then Christoph Million sort of got across and parked the bus and let the pacemakers off. 2 pacemakers went way ahead. And so there was no real rhythm in the race. So I got stacked back into a muddling pace on that day. But it was always going to be a point from I was drawn 5. At some point I was going to need element of luck. So there's no point me worrying about leaving the gates, you know. Like I had to deal with that when it arose. And when I did in the straight, I was following Oliver Pellier, and he kicked for a gap ahead of me, and I just looped him, and the race was over. You know, but for the first time in all these races, I really asked him for a huge effort, quick, and it was, you know, everybody said, oh, he needs luck, and in 2 strides he was out and gone. That was where he showed his real mettle, when against adversity, the pace of the race, you were getting a little bit buffeted, and he showed the real character that was required.
Talk to me about the pressure on you that day. Did you feel like going into that race, and it was a big field, it was the Arc, as you say, looking, running, all the things that could happen. Did you feel proper pressure that day?
If you don't feel pressure, it doesn't mean enough to you. That's the way I believe it. Like, I was always well prepared. I'd be more nervous 2 weeks or 10 days down the line than I would come the day. I'd get myself into a proper mental state where I'd have my homework done, was confident what I was doing. And you just have to back your own ability, you know. And I just felt he wouldn't get beat.
He didn't.
You know, I felt he was just improving and improving. And it was amazing. His last piece of work was here on the Old Vic. I generally just bring him in here at the 5 furlong shoot and just let him point his toe on his own. And I got off him, we're walking around the top, and I said, John, that's the best this horse has felt ever. I said, he's improved. You know, he just started to really, the early part and middle part of the year, he was a big, tall, lanky horse, you know, but then he was just starting, he put on about 25 kilos, and he was just starting to really start to blossom physically. You could see it in him, you know, he was becoming a really fantastic specimen, and he just, he had fully matured at that time, you know.
You rode against Sea the Stars. What did you make of him as a specimen?
I watched him in his guineas and I thought he had his ears back, but he won. I followed Mick in the Derby on the horse that I really wanted to ride. Johnny opted for a better workhorse, and I got into Fame and Glory, which I thought guineas winner taking on a staying horse. I said, all I have to do is follow him and I'll beat him. So I followed him everywhere. You give your lad a route, and all of a sudden he was 3 lengths, and I thought, I catch him now. Now I ended up being second, but I think I said it to you afterwards, you beat me on your terms. And Mick looked at me and smiled and said, he wasn't having it. But he just kept improving. And I don't think you ever had to empty him out.
No.
And that's why he kept improving. He was always doing it easy. But I thought that was my one chance of winning the English Derby. Gone. Deflated.
So it was Fame and Glory and Rip Van Winkle. If you had the choice, you would have picked your horse, would you?
King of Rome, Johnny rode that year. Oh, I would have rode Fame and Glory. Even over See the Stars. If I was offered to ride See the Stars, I'd have said no. Fame and Glory. I was so confident I beat him. But Mick's smile was right. He was playing with me.
He certainly was playing with you. You spoke about the old Vic, Mick, and Seamie, you said to me beforehand, you said, that strip behind us there differentiates the good ones from the bad ones.
Yeah, it was just a quick answer. I ride a lot of the work in Ballydoyle, so I know the gallops inside out, where the first jockeys wouldn't know the gallops inside out like I know them. So I know where the good horses, because no horses are allowed into Ballydoyle, I use this gallop as my gauge. If somebody wants me to ride a horse work that they think is good, I said, pitch up at the Vic and I'll tell you. You get to know the gallop, you get to know what they should be doing at certain points with their wind and their ears and their ability. This is a brilliant gallop. But to train on a brilliant gallop, you have to not leave your races behind you. It's very easy to leave races behind you if you're overtraining them. That's my good feeling.
Yeah, no, it's remarkable, and for trainers here, Mick, it's a massive facility, isn't it, to have and to be able to gauge that ability there. Yeah,
well, there's a grass strip on the far side of the old Vic up to Welsh's Hill Gallop. There's a trial grass and there's a trial peat, and there's very few turf gallops. It's equal anywhere in the world.
And the track itself, lads, who do you think rode it best between you? I have the answer. I have the answer.
I got beaten on a fair few that maybe should have won. So
327 winners here at the Curragh for you, Mick Kinane. 163 for you, Seamie. So you have 490 winners here at the Curragh between you. When you look out there, Mick, and you recall some of the great days, do you think it's a track that you just got? Do you think you had the key, you unlocked the Curragh?
That's what I was paid to do.
Yeah. There's a lot of people paid to do it, though. Doesn't mean they do it.
I meant to unlock it. I was lucky. I was able to do it well. So, and I had some great days. And more good days than bad days here, I would say.
Yeah, and there's not too many that can say that. Seamie, you've obviously ridden against Mick many's a time. What do you think made him so good?
It was just natural. You can't put something into somebody if a lot of it's not already there. You can polish it up if they have it. He was what other lads tried hard to do. He didn't have to try hard. It came natural.
Effortless.
That'd be my opinion.
Is there any tussles that stand out between you? Is you sitting up at loggerheads in the stewards' room ratting here at the Curragh?
No, we always get on good. If whatever was on the track stayed on the track. You're paid to do what you got to do out there, and it's never personal. It's just business, you know. And I think we were always straight and fair with one another. If I had a chance, you'd give. Don't ask for a chance, or don't ask for a gap. But if I didn't have one, you can have it, you know. And I think that's the way I sort of conducted myself, you know. It's do what you could do.
Am I right in saying there's a famous photograph in the Heffernan household?
I thought I had met it one day when I was very young. I have a picture of beating Mick and Lester Pickett, and I thought, you've met it now.
Doesn't get any better than that, does it?
Why was I wrong?
There's not too many that can say that. There's not too many that have those photographs. A dear friend, obviously it's a sad time. It's a year since we lost another legend, that was Pat Smullen. And I think a lot of people, racing fans, when they think of Pat, they think of the Curragh. He rode this place really well, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He did a great job. He was a brilliant jockey. Anywhere in the world that he rode, he fitted in. He shone, and he got horses to run. But he was a great fella to ride the folly behind in a race. But you wouldn't want to get down his inside. He'd be a bit like Kevin Manning. he'd close all the doors. But listen, we're lucky to remember him, and he was brilliant, and he done a lot for racing. And that's the way life pans out.
It is, Mick. It's hard to believe that he's not still with us. I know, when you think back to all the great days and all he's done for Irish racing and all he's done for Cancer Trials Ireland now, he's left some legacy. And as a man, I don't think I've ever met somebody who you say to yourself, he's just got it. He just had it, didn't he?
Yeah, he was a good character, Pat. You know, Pat and I were quite friendly, and we had some good days on and off the track. And sadly missed. You know, it was a tragedy what happened. You know, taken away so early in life. But you know, his trouble and strife, he wore it well, and battled it to the end. You know, so he went out on his sleeve. You know.
And of course, he had some great days for the legendary Dermot Weld, as did you. What was Dermot like to ride for?
He had his moments.
Please elaborate.
Yeah. Like Dermot's acquired taste in many ways. He sees talent in somebody, but he wants to mold them into what he sees. And that can take a time, like any young guy. It took me some time to agree with him or to get to where he wanted me to. But he most certainly did. He was probably the most influential in my career that anybody has been, is Dermot Weld. And I'm very grateful for that. I was with him for 15 or 16 years. And, you know, we travelled the globe through his runners and exposure to the world. The world was my oyster after it. So, you know, my debt of gratitude will forever be to DK. And Pat took over afterwards, and I helped him through many a moment with DK.
You're speaking from experience.
I was, yeah. He'd come to me when he was in trouble. But he was never in trouble.
Mother
But
Mary.
he was never in trouble. But you know, so we, you know, but Dermot and Pat developed a similar type of relationship that we had. You know, a long-lasting one and a very good one.
So, Mick, what was it that Dermot actually wanted from his jockeys? I actually spoke to him for the Racing Post for an interview last week, and one word that came up a lot was rhythm. Rhythm. He likes his jockeys to get a horse into a rhythm early. What was it that you think he wanted from you at the start, maybe that you didn't have?
Well, maybe your timing, your delivery. Like Dermot wouldn't like 2 or 3 runs when it goes at winning a race. You know, he likes one nice, smooth, progressive effort. Doesn't like it stop-start. You know, so yeah, a bit of patience and a bit of rhythm into your riding.
At the moment, he has a jockey who many people are saying is the best we've seen since Mick Kinane in Colin Keane. Obviously rides for Ger Lyons, rides a good bit for Dermot, rides for many different trainers. What's your thoughts on Colin Keane? What are we seeing at the moment?
I think he has a really good mentality. He seems to have a nice, calm calculating head and shoulders. Doesn't appear to be affected by the ups and downs of it. Like I don't know him well enough. No, I haven't ridden him enough to get in his inside or up his inside to see what he was like. Could I shake his tree? But he does appear to have an awful lot going for him. He most certainly keeps things pretty simple. God willing, he has a great future ahead of him.
What are we talking here? Are we talking another Mick Kinane, another Frankie Dettori? Is he that good?
God, I don't think he'd like to be me. Does he want my bills? No, listen, there's undoubtedly he has a great opportunity. He's one of the young jockeys that you would look to anywhere in the world at the moment as a shining star. So hopefully that will stay bright.
There's a lot of young, enthusiastic and talented young jockeys in the weighing room at the minute. You've seen jockeys come and go. This new band of jockeys, the Ben Cohens, the Andy Slatterys, and a little bit older, obviously, the Colin Keanes.
I've heard it a few times. This is the next Mick Kinane. They taper off. But Colin is getting a throw at it because he's riding for Ger Lyons, who's very successful. DK wants him. He spots talent. Aidan uses him. He's a bit like Mick. If his main retainer doesn't want him, he can ride 2 or 3 in the race if he wants to. But he fits the bill in a lot of places in that he's riding very good horses for very good trainers. So he's got a head start. And he's a good fella, but he's bred to be a good fella. Now there's kids coming along, and all the time there's somebody waiting to grab your perch. So if he stays healthy, fit and well, he's got the right lads looking for him at the right end of the race. And so he's got a bigger shot of being, I won't say Mick Kinane, I don't think he's a long way to go. But he's got a shot of being very, very, very good.
It was a big weekend for Ben Cohen here, winning the Irish St. Ledger on Sonny Boy Liston. Is he somebody that you think could make it?
Ben is completely chilled out. Again, Johnny entrusted him and given him the big job. Ben is very talented. He could leave the parade room with his feet out of the irons on a scatty yoke, and he'd be looking around to see is the lad behind him okay. He's just totally relaxed, and horses pick up and run home from him. But there's a handful of kids there. There's a handful of young lads coming along. Joseph has a few of them, but they have to, every year you have to keep getting that bit better. You can't just be the best. You have to keep improving, and you got to keep the next kid behind you. I mean, you wouldn't take him on, that, and that's just the way it is. As you get older as a flat jockey, you get clever and you ride better, and people respect you. And if you don't have the younger lads respecting you, you ain't going to hold on to your pitch for long. And that's the game we're in.
Something you said to me there a few minutes ago, when you're riding in a race, and you said, I've never ridden against Colin Keane, so I don't know if you're trying to go up his inside. If you're riding in a race, and you're in the box seat, as we'd call it, in third, and somebody is making the running, is it in your head who's on the horse in front of you? Will he let me up his inside? Is that kind of stuff in your head as a rider, no?
It just happens. It'll depend on what presents itself, what runs you can get or may not get, or what chances you're willing to take if things are tight. It's important to know your horses and your form, but it's also very important to know your jockeys under pressure, what they're going to do, how they're going to operate. So
sometimes you might have to think twice.
Yes.
That's the next caliber of jockeys. Viewers are going to be wanting to know who's the next big thing horse-wise. We've seen a lot of terrific performances on Irish Champions Weekend. Seamie, St. Mark's Basilica did the business, and he's had a terrific season.
He's a very good racehorse, and it would be brilliant if he was as good a stallion as racehorse, but it don't always pan out that way. He's a very good racehorse. I'm not sure what Pat or plan is going to be with him. It's not my department, but he has been a very, very good racehorse.
Point Lonsdale lost some beaten record here in the National Stakes. We're just waiting, I suppose, for Aidan's 2-year-olds just to kind of take this year by the scruff of the neck. Is there a few more to come out, or is there some maybe that have caught your eye?
We've plenty of well-bred horses. Even though you have the same crop every year, you won't get the same yield, and that's the way it pans out. We've plenty of unexposed 2-year-olds and 2-year-olds that haven't ran. So listen, all these trainers that are, you got John Ox and you got trainers dropping off and scaling back, and you got new trainers coming along. All these lads have an edge and a fighting edge. So sometimes it's sharper than yours, and that's the way it is.
Any particular horses that you think could have a good autumn? I know obviously Snowfall at the moment is second favourite for the Arc behind Tarnawa. Anything that you're particularly looking forward to for the next few months?
I can't put a finger on a horse, but I just hope I'm on them. I'm as hungry as ever.
Yeah, well, it could be a big end to the season for you. Mick, it could be a terrific Arc.
A few of the trials this week threw up a few, the Japanese horse Outsider won. This is probably a more fancied one than him in the wings. Snowfall was a little bit off her game, probably a fraction, but knowing Aidan, he probably has a little left to go for the Arc. Depending on ground, we know how very well she can operate on slower ground. So she's still a big player for the Arc. And as Dermot's filly is, for sure.
So Mick, you're still in good shape. If I got my phone and I was an agent and I could ring Mick Kinane and say, Mick, you can ride any horse you want in the Arc, who does Mick Kinane ride?
I think I'll be giving Dermot a ring.
You'll be
could I have my job back?
Tarnawa.
I think so, yeah. It was Leopardstone's performance by Sir Mark Basilica was good. You have 3 very good race horses there covered in within a half a length, and 3 of the best horses around. But her trial was very good.
You wouldn't mind a spin on Snowfall, I'd say, Seamie?
I'll take what I'm given. The ground in France was pretty quick, so listen, she had to go and run the shape of the track, and her performance in the Oaks on slow ground was unreal. So I'd stick with Aidan and I'd ring him.
Mm.
You don't have to ring him. You're side by side every day, Seamie. On Snowfall, has she surprised the team in Ballydoyle? Because obviously she ran so much last year. I was a fan of her early on, and I know you rode her a couple of times as a juvenile.
I nearly got a fall on her here one day in the May, and it got tight, and I clipped the heel, and I think her work was good. It was better than her performance, but I just think she went a little weak, and she didn't do what we seen. But over the winter, she grew and she relaxed, and when she got up into that 1.5 mile trip, she blossomed. The ability came through. They won't all be classy 2-year-olds, and some of them will show a bit of class, but when they get to the track, they're not able to finish it because just a bit physically weak.
We're looking ahead to the William Hill sponsored Autumn Festival here at the Curragh, and the Beresford is a race that always seems to produce the next big thing. And I think last year we thought you were on the next big thing in high definition, Seamie, but Aidan has won it 10 years in a row. He's won it 20 times in all. It is a race he certainly targets with his best juvenile.
Yeah, it suits that saddler's well as that staying round Curragh Mile, horses that are going to get middle distance or above. It's usually a good test. He makes it a good test because he wants to find out what's what. So it usually suits that type of horse. I'm not sure what we're going to be running at the moment, but it usually suits his type of horse.
And we might think, Mick, that we've seen the best juveniles already, but it can happen that they could be late developers or two, and maybe we might still be yet to see the best juvenile this season.
Yeah, well, Galileo only ran once at 2. He wouldn't have made the Leopardstown. He was 7 or a mile. Was it a mile? Could have been a mile.
He definitely only won one race.
Right. So you just never know what's going to still come. That Derby type horse, which more than often the Beresford pops up. You see the Stars was a little bit unusual. He came out of that. The horse could stay a mile and a half, but then showed that he had enough speed in the spring to take a chance at the Guineas. But invariably, the Beresford is your Derby type horse, your 1.25 mile Derby type horse. Because if they get a mile at this stage, stamina shouldn't be an issue to him.
And Seamie, I was convinced we saw the Derby winner in it last year in high definition. What on earth has gone on?
He just didn't progress.
What did you think that day? Did you think he was the next big thing?
I wasn't sure what was happening because Ed told me to ride him in the last pair. He says, he'll come home for you. I had a lot of ground to make up, but I hit the line. I went from struggling to hitting the line and galloping out. Broome was a little bit the same. He was a very good 2-year-old, looked like a nice 3-year-old, and then just went weak. He collapsed. I think he missed his mostly 4-year-old career. Some horses just, their class shines, and then they're stunted for so long, and some of them come back and some of them never come back. But he has been disappointing, but that's racing. There's going to be disappointments. That sorts the professionals out from the lads that are chancing.
It certainly does. To finish up, lads, we're here at the Curragh. So many. Mick, you have 327 to choose from. Give me one out of that 327 that stands out more than any other. The one day where Mick Kinane went home and say that was magic at the Curragh.
Winning the Derby of Galileo, which was my first. I had sort of hit the crossbar here loads of times, and I'd been winning everywhere around the world, and I was living straight across from the 6 furlong gate down here, and I couldn't win the home Derby. So I got the monkey off my back that year, and that was probably, if you ask me, what was my best day at the Curragh, Galileo's Irish Derby win.
Magic day for you, Seamie. You've got 163 to choose from. Some recent ones amongst them.
There was a filly called Diamonds and Rubies. I rode her in the English Oaks, and it got rough, and I didn't get a clean run at it. I pretty much pulled up saying that was one that got away. But the filly that won the race was trained by our team. So when they switched back to the Curragh, Ryan was our first jockey. He obviously rode the one who won the English Oaks, and I got a second throw at the board, and I won the Pretty Polly. It was really, really sweet.
Yeah.
You don't get many second throws of the dart that should have won. So that was one that stood out for me.
And we're here in the new stand, lads, at the Curragh. Mick, you unfortunately won't get a chance to ride in the new Curragh, but for the home of Irish flat racing, it's now got a place. It is now a place we can be proud of, and it's a magical arena, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a beautiful place to watch a race from. Like, the views are here are fantastic. You nearly have 360-degree vision here. So, yeah, it just shows what a special place the Curragh is.
And you still love it as much as ever. You love riding here as much as ever. And there's a lot of meetings still here to go. We've got obviously the Autumn Festival here that's sponsored by William Hill. There's a lot of times Seamie Heffernan is going to be back at the Curragh, and it's that hope that you might find the next Galileo, is it?
Hopefully, yeah, sure. It's a great track. It's only an hour up the road from me. It's straightforward, and Aidan runs loads of good horses here. So hopefully I'm going to be in the winner's ring plenty more.
I'm sure you will. The appetite is still there. So that's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed our look ahead to the Autumn Festival here at the Curragh. So many magical memories looked back upon by Mick Kinane and Seamie Heffernan. But why don't you let us know what was your favourite Mick Kinane ride at the Curragh, or your favourite Seamie Heffernan memory? Leave a comment, like and subscribe. Tell us what you think about these two legends here sitting beside me. That was our look ahead to the Autumn Festival here at the Curragh. I've been David Jennings, he's been Mick Kinane, he's been Seamie Heffernan. Thanks for watching.